Well, thank you three for the time today. I really appreciate it. The show is so fascinating. It's so fun to watch. The wall to me is so intimidating. I used to cook and I love the idea though. It's so intimidating, but so wonderful at the same time. Starting with you, Noah, as the host, how do you contain this energy? Because you've got this big wall of incredible people behind you. How do you manage that?
I think the key for me, the big moment was when I realized probably maybe 2 or 3 episodes into the first season that there was no containing the wall. that it was basically just like I was a camp counselor with way too many kids and too little experience. And you kind of just let them run wild and enjoy the ride. I try like a border collie. I try to wrangle them, but for the most part, just let them do what they do.
Well, Chef Barr, going to you, what's the most surprising thing about working on this show? Is there something that you think stands out, especially maybe for the competitors, but also for you as a judge?
I think from a few different places I can approach this question, because as just being someone that has been cooking out of so much passion and love, like I can relate to them, just the nervousness of trying to make something that you love so much and you're hoping that whoever is receiving it is going to love it as much as you love it. So there's that energy that I really can relate to. And then I think being in the position with standing next to being in season 2 and like being amongst my peers and my mentors and being with them once again under the circumstances that we've been in Canada, it's been such a joy because you haven't been in close proximity with people in the way that we've been, but we've also been very cautious, and just hearing where everyone's at it's always just such a pleasure to like just have conversation again and to also talk about this love that we do in the culinary world and how hospitality has impacted our own life and how our families are growing and expanding, and how we ourselves are also just working on new ideas and just kind of being able to flip those ideas to friends, because we are all friends, like there's so much love on that wall. Truly, and it's something that we experience episode to episode. It brings us to tears, that brings us to laughter. I mean, it's sometimes you walk in, you don't know what we're going to expect and what's going to happen in the day. It truly, truly is that.
Chef Capra, for you, what's surprising? Did you get shocked by any dishes in the second season that you can talk about, or what's it like?
Well, you know what? It's amazing to see how the TV shows just like this one have affected people in many, many good ways. I mean, learning more about food, getting more interested in products and where they come from and how to use them. Getting very creative in the recipes. There has been quite a lot of good things that I am one that takes the approach. I'm always learning. I don't know anything. Actually, the older I get and the less I know, because there is such an expansion of the food industry and so many different ways of doing things. Plus, all kinds of cuisines are beautiful and they're really tasty. And these guys, they come up and they're looking at us, and some of them feel nervous. I mean, I would feel very nervous. I mean, having 12 chefs judging me. I mean, I don't like doing competition. So, I mean, I like to stay away because I have a different approach. I like to go slow and take it easy and really dive into the product. I can't do it flipping in like 20 minutes getting a recipe done, but to watch these people just getting so involved and so passionate about what they're doing is such a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? You can't help it but being mesmerized by the kind of work that they do and how they approach it, and the pride that they have when they present it to us, right? Even though, I mean, not always is delicious or interesting or even okay. I mean, there's been some really difficult tastings, but I mean, we pull through it and we do it and we offer our own opinion based on what we know and what we think is right, and it makes it for a great day at work.
Well, for all three of you, I'm curious, speaking to that there are sometimes the bad things, is it hard standing on the sidelines when something is going wrong and you just want to be like, hey, no, that over there, look at that.
Yes, there's been many times that some of us have tried to jump off the wall and go and extinguish a fire or to stir a pot. I mean, yes.
And it's always the time when Noah comes up and has a question. You're like, no. Don't come talk to me right now because I'm trying to not contain my reaction with what I'm seeing.
That's right. Yeah. Keep it going.
Yeah, just keep filming. Go talk to somebody else. I'm just watching.
Is that a strategy, Noah? Is that a strategy that you're like, hey, talk to the judges when these things are happening?
Well, I'm always talking. So statistically, there's a good chance that I'm saying something when somebody does something. I think what's so amazing about the chefs in this show is that the reason that they want to jump in and the reason that they see all those moments is because it's real. They're really locked in and they're watching and and even for me, when I watch the episodes back, I get to see certain little conversations that are unfolding on parts of the wall that I don't know about, where just the chefs, for example, Chef Capra and Chef Barr, can be exchanging their own little thoughts and opinions on the approach for a certain ingredient that none of us know is happening. They're having their own little conversation. All of that happens because of the passion and that love and that kind of like that interest. So I think it works out all right that every now and then there may be one or two that slip out where it's like, check your fish, just to give them a heads up. But it's fun to watch.
Well, and I love too that there are also teaching moments where the chefs at the end are kind of giving them the extra kind of help. So I'm curious, for all three of you, what do you think stands out about being able to provide those little lessons? Because in a way, you're also kind of teaching the audience, obviously, as well.
Chefs, I'll let you lead the way. Yeah.
Yeah. It is to us. I mean, we see sometimes. I mean, it's hair raising where when you see some people chopping in a certain way or using a knife in a certain way. So we try to offer not only our opinion but a little bit of guidance, And when the dish is done and is all finished and we taste it and all that, what we say and what we try to do is to offer guidance to produce a better product and to produce a better dish. So that's how I approach it. I mean, it's not so much as saying, "Oh, this is bad, it's awful, get rid of it, you're not good." I mean, there's nothing like that happening, right? I mean, you can't do that to people that are not in the business. I mean, obviously, everybody cooks at home. I mean, for sure. I mean, I'm sure that everybody eats. That's a guarantee. So, I mean, I don't know. Am I the only one thinking that? I don't know.
Chef Capra, I just love how you've obviously had so many hair-raising moments that look at the result. I mean, it's...
I did. I was trying to grow a beard so that I could pull that one, but that's for another story. No, but it's true. I mean, listen, they put so much love and so much passion into doing what they do. I love the show because, the first recipe tends to be the dish that really makes them famous with their own family, or it can be basically is there what's it called on the show? I don't remember
the crowd pleaser.
The crowd pleaser, exactly. The crowd pleaser, which is something that they should know exactly how to do, perfectly. And on the show many times we have a crowd pleaser that is phenomenal. And then there's nothing else following up on these poor people. You know what I mean? It's like that's the only dish that they really know. So we have to give them guidance, and we are hoping that they're listening and they actually do it better next time. You know what I mean?
No, just to back up with Chef was saying, I completely agree. And I also love the moments when we receive a dish and it's like, it's better than what we thought it was going to be. We're like, we've been watching them the whole time. We're like, oh Lord. And then you're like, wow, this is surprisingly amazing. And, seeing the
Yeah.
comments when they step up and they tell their story of why this dish is so personal and important for them. I think that also connects us in a way as chefs, because we're also doing that. We put our heart on a plate in our own restaurants, in our own homes, in our own spaces that, we're this gift that we all are doing. It's something to continue to spread and to offer up for folks, but to taste something that, with that bit of information and that backstory, it makes it that much more sincere and that much more personal to get to know these individuals, because sometimes they're with us to the very end, and some of those folks we just never forget. They stand out in such a way that they just melt our heart. And then when it comes to the deliberation, then we're like fighting for, folks. And then man, like, who are we going to decide? And a lot of that comes down to what we've tasted and what we can imagine what this opportunity will give to that particular person. So
yeah, it's so interesting though, because I think we all expected and we all knew that our chefs were going to be able to kind of bestow all of this knowledge and these tips to our home cooks. And it's like, I mean, if you went to Shoot Hoops with Steph Curry and he was giving you, feedback on how to, on your form, it's like you would take that kind of critique and that whatever with a certain way of excitement, because you're like, wow, I'm getting this from somebody who I really admire. What I found so amazing is the few moments where it's the reverse, where our home cooks teach our chefs a move or a technique where they're just like, I have never seen this done before. There's no way this can work. And like Chef Barr said, then they bite into it and it's just like, wow, this is getting the same kind of result in half the time or in a way I've never realized before. Those moments are super cool. And I can only imagine our home cooks just go home and just like, wait till you hear this.
It's true. I agree with you completely. I mean, that's that is some teachable moments coming from the bottom up, you know what I mean? And that's great. Well, I love that. I mean, that's why I say I'm always learning, right? I mean, there's people are cooking every day. They're cooking their own things, and you can always learn something new all the time. You can never close your mind up to learning, because that's the day that you're finished. That's the day you're just in the past.
Well, the last thing I'll ask is, I like the fact that, you filmed this during a pandemic when it's been such a troubling time for chefs, for restaurants and everything else. And you all got to come together in this way with home chefs as well to tell these stories and make these dishes. What stood out about that for you? Were there special moments about being able to kind of bring the industry together in a way?
Well, the pandemic is here, and unfortunately it's still here. So we have to, I believe that we are the right thinking people here. We go through it and we accept what we have to do, and we don't change who we are because of the pandemic. You know what I mean? We are here to do a job. I mean, we have a restaurant to run. We have a restaurant to build right there. We have a show to make, so it really makes no difference. The pandemic is an unfortunate situation that we all have to live with and hopefully get over it quicker than it's been, but hopefully it's going to be over pretty soon. I mean, but it's something that we can't change. That's something that we cannot change. I mean, it is good that we were able to film and actually present a new show in that format, and there was a lot of work done by everybody on the crew, not by us. I mean, we just went in and we had cookies and coffees until they called us in to work. But I mean, there was a lot of work done by hundreds of people behind the scene, and those are the guys that really need to be applauded for it, because everything went over. It was seamless and smooth. It was smooth and seamless. So I mean, a lot of work. Noah is Noah is one of the hardest working people that I know, because that show rests on his shoulder, and he better remember that.
Well, it's funny though, Chef, because First of all, yeah, shout out to all the crew and everybody who put all the proper procedures in place to be able to make a show of that magnitude happen safely. And we did it, and everybody was healthy. And so for that is a round of applause. But I will say this. I think Chef Capra's putting up a bit of a tough guy face in the sense of, I found that there was oddly a lot of emotional moments that kind of came out in season 2 that I think grew and stemmed from the fact that we had all been kind of locked up in our houses, in our restaurants alone, and being reunited and having conversations with our colleagues again about food and about that passion. There were, as Chef Barr had referenced, there were tears. There were moments where people were talking about things that you could connect the dots back to the source and understand where it was coming from. But, I don't want to call out Chef Todd Perrin because he's not here, but Chef Perrin, Ballard Cottage, he really had a standout moment in the season where I think just the weight of the year was on his shoulders, and he felt stuff and shared it with us, and it opened up a door. And it was moments like that I think we were all so grateful that coming out of that kind of first big chunk of that lockdown, that we were able to have that kind of big gasp of air in the industry again with our colleagues. So that was a moment of the pandemic that I think was, a standout for sure.
I think just to add to that, like completely, I heard a lot about that particular episode for Todd. And I personally also, remember having a moment where, I think the weight of the world was really resting on so much of not just us in that room, but just like who we were as leaders and who we are as people that represent certain folks and how we treat each other in this world, between what was happening with BLM, what was happening with, workers' rights, what was happening with sick days. Within the country itself, Canada was really suffering in such a way that there were so many conversations that we couldn't just avoid. Food is obviously the reason why we're there and the passion that drove us to be there. But I think that life was something that we could not ignore. We couldn't ignore all of the sounds and rhythms and the conversations that were happening outside of this confined space that we were in. We were brought in, and the whole procedure to arrive onto set, it was such a stepped out procedure that, I want to thank the whole production team and all those that risked their own safety to be there and show up for us and provide us lunch and snacks. And it was a lot of emotion. And to Noah's point, it was just like this moment that we could finally release. We could finally open up and be honest, and we can have these conversations with people and folks that we honestly are like, you're listening, someone else is listening, because I've been speaking either to myself or I've been speaking to my own community, but here it is where we are outside of our own comforts of our communities, and we're sharing conversations that are important to us and things that we need to be hearing and listening to, and ways that we need to reimagine our industry. Because we have been suffering. The industry has to reset itself. And all of these setbacks and all these things that are happening, these are just distractions from us keeping away from the conversation that needs to be had, which is how do we go from here, and where do we go from here? And so it was a real honor to be a part of a lot of these conversations, and also to share my perspective on that stage, and for those that heard and that were listening. And, it's an honor to, just to continue to do this work and be able to do this work, because not everybody that looks like me can do this. And I recognize that. And so I take a stand, and I speak for every voice that is sometimes silenced and not heard. So it's always a great opportunity to do that.
I look forward to the country seeing that episode. Even if they air a fraction of the moments that unfolded, will be a stronger, better place for it. It was that was like an important one.
Very, very much so. Very much so. I agree, and I was very happy. You know what I noticed is that in season 1, all the chefs were all kind of divided up, and they had a little group. In this season here, once we saw each other, we were really happy to be together again, and it was really wonderful. We had some amazing conversation. We had some amazing times. We played around a little bit. There's a few pictures going around, I think, of me. But anyway, it was a beautiful moment. And you're right. I mean, the pandemic aside, I mean, the camaraderie, the fact that we were all together again after such a long, isolation, it was a beautiful thing for all of us. Mentally, it really did a lot of good work.
It did.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for the time. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to see the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.